hello. Sean Brady here with another fabulous episode of Leverage Your Lunch Hour. This is live and this is unedited, and this is what happens when you do these things. It's all great. We have wonderful people in the background. We have our media coordinator, Jaleesa Powell at Medici Media Space. Hello, Jaleesa.
Hello.
And also our fabulous guest, as you may guess from the title, for Metaphysical Mindset, the one, the only, the super cool and knowledgeable Dr. Laurel Fuller Clark. Dr. Clark, welcome back.
Thank you, Sean. Hope you're doing well.
Wonderful to have you. It's, we're having a lot of fun. It's Thursday. The sun is shining. We're first day of October, first day of the quarter, and all kinds of great things are happening. And I love these questions because I've been pondering questions all day, especially around our identity and the path we want to choose. And hey, that's the whole concept behind Be More You. Jaleesa and I were talking about that just yesterday. So we're in a perfect place. And in talking about identity, what are some of the things from a metaphysical standpoint would really help people capture some of the universal laws and thinking and some of the different things that you offer?
I've thought a lot about this, Sean, because in many different areas of life, people who are trying to decide what to do with their lives, how to be successful, they ask themselves, or other people ask them, what do you want? And some people are very desire oriented and they have a list of 50 things they want. They have a bucket list. There are other people who maybe don't really know what they want, or things that they thought they wanted, they find out don't satisfy them. I mean, it's not uncommon for someone to go to college with a career goal, and then after taking some classes, they decide, I don't really like math, and so maybe it's not the best idea for me to try to become an architect or whatever it is. And what I have found is that a very significant element in deciding what you want or knowing what you want starts with first deciding, who am I? What kind of person am I? What are the qualities in me that I identify with? And sometimes even determining that before thinking about who am I in terms of a role. So what I found is that oftentimes when people are in a life change situation, like their kids have grown up and they're off to college, we call those people empty nesters. And what happens with the parents is, even though they're still parents, their identity as a parent changes when raising kids is no longer a full-time endeavor. They see their kids when they come home for a break instead of every day they're making lunch for their kids. Or my experience of grief, both in being young when my father died and young when my husband died, is that, in my opinion, the real grief that people experience is trying to adjust and renegotiate, well, who am I now that I'm not a wife anymore? And so for me, even now, when I fill out forms and they ask for marital status, when you go to the doctor or wherever, it just seems very weird to me to check widow, because my idea of widow, a lot of that was shaped by books that I read where it's, some old lady, and I don't think of myself that way. But my identity when I was no longer a spouse required change. So I think that a lot of people don't even really ask themselves that question of who am I? They kind of take it for granted, or there are certain things they operate from that are unconscious. And I think the more that we can not just ask the question, but really seek ways to answer it, it can make a huge difference in terms of making life choices that are much more fulfilling.
That's really true. So you have me thinking about all the things of I thought of previous decades ago in life, and what I thought was going to be important about now this time of my life. And I've even talked to a few friends about the same things, like, oh, we thought we'd have this type of car, or this type of house, or this type of whatever, right? And the only thing that stayed the same is we still talk. We don't
Right,
talk as often as we used to. We don't do the same things that we used to. Uh, and the things that we did for enjoyment, hobbies, fun, that's even changed a little bit.
right.
It's like, oh, yeah, I thought we'd be traveling around the world and all these other things. And it's like, maybe, going not too far from home is pretty cool. Or just, going on for a hike instead of some jumping out of airplanes for fun.
Yeah,
But things change, and that's okay. But it's a constant reminder to ask that question. It's like, well, who am I really? And maybe even right now, and where do I want to go?
right. And I think asking those questions can also help us determine why certain choices are more or less fulfilling. So, for example, I have a friend, and a big part of her identity is being helpful and being useful. So, she was a nurse for, I think, 35 years, a pediatric nurse. And one of the reasons why she loved it so much is that her occupation gave her a way to be helpful and useful, not just to the babies, but to the families of the babies. And I know that she loves to cook. And one of the reasons that she loves to cook is she loves to eat. But really, the reason that she loves to cook is to cook for other people, because that's a way for her to be helpful and useful. So, whether it's an occupation like being a nurse, or something that's a part of your life, like preparing meals, if you know that that identity of being helpful is important, then it can help you to see, why is it that this is important to me? Or somebody who identifies with being a people person, let's say, that can help them decide if this occupation is going to be fun. I mean, if someone who's a real people person probably loves to work as a server at a restaurant, and maybe not because they like carrying plates around, they may or may not like that, but it's a great opportunity to meet people, to learn about them, to find out what their preferences are. And so I find that to be kind of a fun and interesting endeavor, is to look at, for myself or people who I counsel, to look at their life as being kind of like a river, or maybe like a tapestry, and what are the threads that have continued to run through my experience. Like in everything that I've done, if I've always done something that I've enjoyed that's been around people, that can help me make some decisions now about that. So let's say it's someone who's retiring, and they don't want to just sit at home watching TV. They don't want to just drive around in an RV. Maybe it would be good for them to volunteer, because so much of their identity and their sense of fulfillment comes from being around people.
Hmm. So when it comes to universal laws, and certainly these questions from a metaphysical mindset standpoint, how can we use our metaphysical mindset just to like open up some of these things? Is it just being aware to the question and actually asking it of ourselves?
I think that's a first step.
Hmm.
So I actually just did a one-on-one session with somebody who works at a job. He's good at it. He makes good money at it. He's been doing it for quite a while. It's not really that fulfilling to him anymore, but there is a fulfillment that he gets in being able to be a good provider for his family, and doing something that it helps build his self-esteem because he's good at it. But he's aware that he's kind of reached a plateau, and he wants something more not necessarily exciting, but something that's going to offer more learning opportunities. I think that's really where he feels like he's hit a plateau. Like there's not really that much more to learn, even though he's good at what he does. So that was an assignment that I gave him, is throughout his day to just ask himself in any situation, who am I? Who am I right now? So if he's with his wife, for example, and they're having dinner, is to pause and ask himself, who am I? And then to examine, am I enjoying what I'm doing now? So maybe they're having a good conversation and he realizes that part of who he is a person who can ask good questions, or being a good listener, or whatever it is.
Sure.
I know I think about this sometimes when I'm at the grocery store, and if I have the time, I like to let people in front of me in line, even if they have way more things than I do. I especially like to let them in line if they have fewer things than I do. And a lot of that comes from an important value that I have in being kind and considerate. So if I'm in a hurry and I have 2 items and the person in front of me has an overloaded shopping cart, and I'm thinking, why don't they just let me in? I think, okay, well, who am I now? That is not really being kind. But it is related to a strong identity I have of being a teacher and an educator. And so I don't say it to the person, but that's part of my thought, is that I could maybe teach them something about being considerate, because it's not going to take that long for the cashier to check me out if I have 2 items.
Right.
So, and I don't even think the answers are as important as asking the questions, seeing what comes up, paying attention to see, does this resonate with who I want to be right now? So in that last scenario that I talked about, maybe this isn't the time and place for me to be an educator. Maybe it's the time and place for me to be a good neighbor and just, let that person do their thing and check out. Maybe they're really in a hurry and the extra 5 minutes would make them even later to pick their kid up or whatever. So I think it's a good exercise.
I'm looking at all my books because your grocery line example reminded me of the book Influence, Robert Cialdini's Influence. And one of the little studies that they did was simply asking the question. So it kind of tied in 2 ways. One, they had a student who was in line to use the copier, and at the library when you still had to use copiers, and like, oh, just asking the question if there was people in front of them, hey, do you mind if I cut it in front of you? And then they furthered it up with, because I have to do whatever I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But because they identified that word because, and it didn't matter what they said after because I have to go to my, class tomorrow. Clearly it had nothing to do with right now, the immediacy of today.
Yes.
I need to make a copy now. And I'm like, oh, what if Lisa said, may I go ahead of you because of whatever? And then you shared, it's like, oh, it's really a practice of who am I right now? And I never thought of that. Letting somebody else go ahead of me, even if they had more things. Hey, would you mind going ahead of me before me? Because I'm trying to figure out who I am really right now.
Yeah.
I might throw them for a loop a little bit.
Right.
But what a great opportunity to ask the question and be present in the moment, not just, like you said, for the answer, but it's really the question that drives us.
Right.
That's very cool. All right. What else about the metaphysical mindset? I feel my brain expanding right now, and I'm thinking about all kinds of things. Was that designed that way? Did you do that intentionally?
To expand your mind?
Yes.
Sure, of course.
It's great stuff. Jaleesa, I don't want to leave you out of the conversation. I know you've been listening in. Are there any thoughts that you're present to right now with our conversation?
Um, I on listening to you guys, the thing that kind of like reminds me and humbles me at the same time is just that we're all experiencing different journeys in life, and what is so foreign and just so surprising and out there to me is just more relevant and close to others. And so to me, I'm just kind of like listening in on you guys and kind of like in my head because I'm a thinker. I do a lot of thinking.
So as you're thinking, is there any questions that are coming up inside your own mind right now?
No, no questions. No questions, just observations.
That's awesome. Very cool. Laurel, what else from a metaphysical mindset should we cover in this episode before I know we stop and think of some more cool things to share with people? You have a class and workshop that you're developing all around the universal laws, certainly with metaphysical mindset. What can you say about what you're developing to be released in the near future here?
It's a 4-week course that I will be offering online. And unlike some online classes that are pre-recorded where people just listen to a recording, this is going to be live and interactive. So the students who are attending will be able to ask questions and engage. It will be recorded so that if somebody can't attend in person, they can watch and listen to the recording afterwards. And it's based on how to understand what makes life fulfilling and how to craft the kind of life that's going to be the most fulfilling. And in that, it is related to what we're talking about, because I think most people over the course of their lives realize that life is more about our relationships and what we create than it is about the things in our lives. So, physical things deteriorate. The house you live in is going to deteriorate. Your car deteriorates. Your clothes deteriorates. We were talking earlier about even these bodies that we inhabit, they change over time.
Sure.
So what's the purpose of having this house or this car or this physical body? They're all vehicles for us to experience. And one of the things that I've learned in my research is that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who did a lot of work with people who were dying, she wrote a very famous book called On Death and Dying. And what she found was that universally across cultures, belief systems, that at the end of life, people ask, did I give and receive love? Did I become all that I could be? And did I leave the world a little bit better? So when I read that a long time ago, I thought, what if we didn't wait until the end of our lives to ask those questions? What if at the end of a day I ask, okay, today, did I give and receive love? Did I become all I could be? Did I leave the world a little bit better? And then based on my reflections, what if I start out my day tomorrow thinking, how am I going to give and receive love? How am I going to become all I can be? How am I going to leave the world a little bit better? So that's how I strive to live my life. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I love to teach. I think that's one of the ways I can leave the world a little bit better. And it's one of the ways that I can give and receive love. And it's also one of the ways that I can become all that I can be, because every time I teach, I learn something. So for me, those two are very intertwined and integrated. Is as I learn, I have an urge to share that with other people. As I share it with other people, I learn, so I grow. And I think the more that people can think of their lives that way, that this whole life experience we have is like a schoolroom, it's here for us to learn, then it makes a big difference in how we even live our lives.
I love that. I'm writing down life is for learning.
Yes.
That's really awesome. Dr. Clark, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is always you every time I speak with you, and we're getting ready for Coach's Corner later this afternoon. By the way, for everybody else out there, if this is the first time watching, we know we've talked about it before. Every Thursday, 1:30 to 3 Central Time in the United States, we just have a fabulous 90 minutes or so discussion around what we do as coaches, and certainly consulting for those that are consultants and really want to provide help for other people and serve our clients and customers in the best fashion. I am always gladdened and happy because my mind is intellectually challenged. I ask these types of questions and I just get excited about it. It's really cool. I'll share more in Coach's Corner. Big shout out to Medici. Is there anything more you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm good. Or that was to you, Laurel.
Well, to you too, Jaleesa. Was there anything else so you're good. Laurel, is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off on here?
Just thank you, Sean, for being so interested in growth and learning. And thank you to everyone who's listening.
All right. On that note, as we always say, thank you, thank you, thank you. We may not see you in person, but we're always going to see you right here on social media. Thanks for watching.